My name is Pamela Householder. I'm with Partners Resource Network, and we are the Parent Training and Information Centers for the state of Texas. My coworker and I cover Region 11, but our company covers the entire state of Texas. And so tonight we want to bring to you some information on transitioning from that lovely thing of high school to adulthood. And that looks different for very varying reasons. A lot of kids sometimes have different aspirations and different goals. But tonight we're going to kind of be pretty generic in regards to what it does and doesn't cover, or what to kind of expect. So the intent of this workshop is to provide you with what IDEA requires in respect to the time when a student with a disability prepares to leave high school to go out in the world as a young adult. Scary thought. I'm working on my own daughter's transition plan. She's about to be 15, and I just want to put my head in the sand. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to consider it, but it's what we're working on. We'll cover important aspects of transition planning. We'll also discuss what IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, requires with respect to transition services, what information is typically part of a transition plan, how transition plans are developed, and whom and by whom, and resources for more information on transition. And so, does anybody have, just to start off with, does anybody have any kind of questions that they want me to possibly answer, or you want to just all leave it at the end?
I think at the end would be good.
Yeah.
We're all good for the end? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So preparing a child with a disability to perform functionally across a wide spectrum of areas and activities may involve considerable planning, attention, and focused coordinated services. Adulthood involves a wide range of skill areas and services. So you have to take in consideration your children's future plans and are they going to live on their own? Are they going to live in a facility? Are they going to live with a roommate? Are they going to live at home? Is this going to include that? You're looking to be considering what activities will help them learn to get those skills down, whether it's a life skills class or going to like a cooking class, or even I know Partners Resource, we're about to present a financial aspect of it. So we're actually going to have things, a training class on, hey, why is your credit important? This also includes focusing on details that are result driven. So you want to be able to say, these life skills are important because my child wants to go on to college, or my child wants to live independently, or they want to live in a group home, or they want to be able to do things for themselves in the home if they're left, at home while mom and dad are at work, because all of a sudden they don't have school to go to. So what happens next? So part of this is keeping the student or your child at the heart of the transition plan. Your student or your child is going to need to be part of the actual planning of their transition to adulthood. You're going to want them to give their input and have them actually state, what do they want to do? And IDEA 2004 requires that students with disabilities be invited to attend every IEP meeting where possibly secondary transition goals will be discussed. So if you're going to your child's junior high, middle school, high school ARD meeting, they're going to be part of the actual committee that meets in that ARD to discuss what their transition plan looks like. What exactly do they need to be able to do what they personally want to do as an adult? So transition activities are personally defined, meaning that the post-secondary goals that are developed for a student must take into account his or her interests, preferences, needs, and strengths. So 3 key domains of transition planning are education, training for settling, and for training as far as employment or independent living. So there's two different aspects. You may have a child that wants to live at home but still have a job, or a child who wants to live at home but go to vocational school. I mean, there's a lot of different options when it comes to a child with disabilities transitioning to adulthood. And some of the transition services to include in the IEP will be transition goals by the time the student is 14. So when my daughter was 13 and transition was first brought up, it kind of was off-putting because I felt like, wait a minute, we just made it to junior high. Why are we talking about what comes after high school? Can we survive junior high first? And I did not realize at the time that as far as the school is concerned, and even the state, your child's transition planning should start around the time they're 14. And some schools start this planning when they're 13. The IEP team also has the authority to begin transition-related considerations earlier in a student's life. Like I said, my school district started when she was 13. And that was just because they felt that that was appropriate, that she had the mental acuity to be able to start being involved in her ARD meetings, and which was a first for me because all of her elementary meetings, she was never part of the committee. And we just made decisions based off of her class, her present levels, and we just kind of moved on. But now she attends the meeting, and she's actually, she takes a survey that is all PIC related. It's pictures because she's nonverbal. So the school wants her input in what she wants for transition, what she wants to do as an adult, which funny, they said that she wants to be a party planner. And I'm like, she's like the least party person ever. So I can't imagine that she wants to be a party planner, but the vet tech thing, I was like, yeah, I could see she likes animals. So, sometimes it's a miss on the information, but they want the students' input. The IDEA's definition of transition really, really wants the student at the heart of their transition, and when the transition services are to be included in the IEP. So some of her goals, like her life skill stuff, we discussed in her beginning of 7th grade, but really didn't get implemented until this year. And part of that had to do with COVID, but other parts was just that it was more of a, we're getting prepared for high school. So in my daughter's school district, everyone's a freshman in 9th grade, but she's still at the junior high campus. So they still want those things implemented by high school age. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. So a closer look at what to include in the IEP. You're going to be considering what is called post-secondary goals. And those are going to still be the whole appropriate, measurable post-secondary goals. This also will be based on age-appropriate transition assessment. So you're looking at things that will still be along the lines of what IEPs are, where they're appropriate and measurable, but they're also going to be considered what is the child's age level. We're not asking her about her living arrangements right now because she's, for the foreseeable future, is still going to be living with mom and dad. But there will come a time when she gets closer to that age of majority where that will be asked of her. Where do you want to live? Do you want to live with mom and dad? Do you want to live in an independent living facility? Do you want to live in a group home? Do you have somebody you want to be a roommate with? Some students live successfully on their own in an apartment with somebody that just comes in and helps them with daily life skills. And, they just need somebody to come in and help with, some of the cleaning or making sure that their finances are in order. Transition assessment includes things such as training, education, employment, independent living skills, and where appropriate, there is extensive vocational school as well that is offered through Texas Workforce Commission and other rehabilitation services. There'll also be transition services for a student that needs more assistance, say, to assist the child in reaching those post-secondary goals. So if the ideal is that they want to go to college, what do they want to go to college for? And they will start incorporating things that would help them get to that post-secondary goal. And that could be going to vet tech school, or I think one boy at an event that we had, I think he was 16 and he wanted to be a NASCAR driver. And it's like, well, let's explore some other options other than being a NASCAR driver. There's all kinds of different things that are in that field that he possibly could be part of, whether it would be doing something on the pit crew or something behind the scenes. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to be involved in the aspirations of what your child wants to do. And those include, finding a way to have them in that field, but maybe not, being a veterinarian may not be everyone's calling, but working with an animal would be. Honey, can you go back to your playroom? No? Sorry, my little one is here. She's come to help, haven't you? Where's your daddy? She has lost her father. Okay. Other things to consider are the domains of adulthood. So you're talking about post-secondary and vocational education, integrated employment, which is included of any kind of supported employment. Some students find that they want to work, but they need assistance in being able to perform a job, even if it's a very minor job. There are employers that hire what they call supported employment, and those employers provide somebody who shadows with them, or somebody that kind of helps them in performing their tasks. So that's something also to consider within your child's adult education. There's adult services, there's independent living, and then there's also community services. So there's a lovely thing called community living, and that is basically where there's planning ahead to cover the areas that your student or your child may need help or assistance with to live independently. And a lot of that really doesn't take effect until they've reached the age of majority or they've graduated or finished high school. And you've also got things to consider, such as transition center. A lot of districts have transition center. So after they've finished high school, they can go for some additional years to the transition center. I know some of them allow students to stay at the transition center to 22 and 23. So that's something to look into your particular school district to see if they have a transition center. And I would encourage that, just simply because the transition center also provides some of these adult supports in giving the additional training that they might need in order to keep a cashier's job, or additional training on how to work the microwave, or how to live independently, how to budget, how to just be able to achieve the goals that they're hoping to get to for after high school. So there's also the issue of college planning. There are a lot of students that have the ability to go on and reach post-secondary, go to a vocational school or college planning. And with college planning, unfortunately, IDEA does not cover any kind of modifications or supports in the college. So most colleges do require a student to be able to actually pass their EOCs, which is the end of course colleges or classes. So, they can either take classes that aren't accredited, and then they don't have to worry about passing an EOC. But most of the time, if they're wanting this to actually count in order to do an actual skilled job, hold on just a second, hold on. They're going to have to pass EOCs on their own without support. So that is something to consider. Will your child be able to attend class and pass their end of course classes or course exams in order to get that passing grade? And a lot of times for some students, some colleges like TCC, I know here in Tarrant County, do allow for some modification in the testing and some assistance with classes. It's not always provided by the college, but it is an allowance that they make, that some students may need that additional assistance with attending their classes or passing their classes. But the things that you would normally typically see in K through 12, you're not going to see in the college realm. So that's something else to take into consideration if you're trying to get your child into, what could a vocational school provide versus an actual college degree. I know some parents kind of, the vocational school makes more sense because they could actually come away with something that they would be employable with. So, I mean, that's just something to consider when looking at post-secondary is, do we want to do college or do we want to do vocational school? Are we just going to be looking at life skills? That is the basics of what you want to consider when looking at post-secondary goals. Like for my daughter, I would probably be more considerate of her going to life skills classes versus college or a vocational school. But she also suffers from an intellectual developmental delay and a physical disability. So it might be really hard for her to even do supported employment. So adult services, you're going to be looking at things like vocational rehabilitation agencies, state agencies that are operating programs or services for individuals with intellectual disabilities or mental health concerns. You're also going to want to consider independent living centers. There are a lot of them in the state of Texas, but they all have wait lists. So this is another reason why the school districts start at 14, because if your child has aspirations to live in an independent living facility, you're going to have to get on the wait list now to be able to have those resources available by the time they're 18, 19, 20, whenever that transition happens. And then you've also got the dealings with the Social Security Administration. A lot of students, their disabilities qualify them for SSI when they turn 18. So if you don't obtain guardianship of your 18-year-old, you're going to have help your 18-year-old navigate the Social Security system. And I don't know about you all, but I don't like that agency very much. They're confusing and overcomplicate things, and it would be best to start early than to be behind the game. And of course, there's always other options specifically mentioned by IDEA, which is a discussion that'll be focused on post-secondary education at a college, university, or community college, vocational education to learn a trade or specific job skill, or just continuing and getting what some people call adult education. And that's where I was mentioning about life skills, where they may have to go and learn or have additional training on how to clean your apartment and how to balance a checkbook, or how much money. Some classes even include, I want to live a certain way, and how much money do I have to make to be able to live that way? So those are other things when you're talking to your child about what they want to do, that you would want to kind of tackle or take on and say, okay, well, that's great. You want to live in a house, but what kind of house, what kind of neighborhood, and what kind of car do you want to drive? And are we talking about driving? I mean, there's just a lot that goes into that transition that you don't really consider until, you're almost on the doorstep of it. And you're like, wait a minute, we need to figure out how we're going to get there. We're not there yet. So the schools are trying to make sure that you're considering these things before it's too late, before you're having to rush and figure out, okay, well, what are they going to do after high school? Are we going to do transition center? And then, this all involves taking closer looks at the IEPs and what particular domains of adulthood you want to consider. Whether you're going to implement adult services, or whether you're going to do furthering education, or if a vocational school is going to come into play. And that's where the IEPs pertaining to reaching those post-secondary goals come into play. You want IEP goals that will actually help your student get to their after-school aspirations, if that be living with mom and dad and working. So you want to go ahead and make sure that starting around the age of 14, those things are taken into consideration. And of course, there's always things, there's always different type of employment connections. You can establish whether employment is a realistic goal for your student. I don't foresee my daughter being employed, but if she were to find something that had the right supports to it, maybe. But right now it's not part of her planning, so I'm not even worried about that. There's other areas of the domain for the student to be interested in. Say, like I said, with the NASCAR driver kid, maybe a vocational school for mechanics, or something to do with something that's done in the office that would still be, in line with that realm of work. It's not always feasible I think one kid told me they wanted to be a superhero, but who doesn't? Who doesn't want to be a superhero? But there are other reasonable workplace accommodations that can be made so that they are working in a similar field. I know one girl wanted to be one of the girls I've worked with before. She wanted to be a nurse, and instead she volunteers her time at the hospital. I don't think she is now because COVID, but prior to COVID, she was doing volunteer time at a hospital. And there's plenty of job coaches that can teach different jobs that are actual marketable jobs that can actually give them a living wage. There's all kinds of job coaches that can help them navigate the world of work. And then there's also the last one, which is the supported employment to be considered if possibly they couldn't do something completely on their own. There are employers that do provide supported employment, and that's something to be considered if you don't think your student could really, or your child couldn't really fully function alone on a job. There's a lot of companies that are out there that are hiring, and they provide what is called supported employment. So those are other things to consider. There's also plenty of different independent living facilities that can be considered. A lot of those, they're related to things like, do they want something that they're going to have access to leisure and recreation? Do they want to have somebody that does all the maintenance in their apartment, like all the cleaning in their apartment? There's some that are more, they're on their own, but they have the access to immediate support or help if they run into a situation they don't know how to control or take care of. So, but in the end of it all, we all want to be ourselves, and we all want to be at the helm of our own lives. And it's important to understand that not all students with disabilities will need an in-depth investigation of or preparation for independent living after they've graduated high school or left the transition center. But there are a lot of organizations that are interested in independent living and the participation of individuals with disability in community life, and the self-determination to live life as fully and inclusively as possible. And you'll discover when you start looking into different companies and different places that their one goal is to let your child or your student live as independently as possible, whatever that looks like. So just in quick review, when you're considering your child's transition to adulthood, you're going to want to have services that are intended to prepare the student to move from the world of school to the world of adulthood. And we all know how scary that is. I'd like to go back to school sometimes, but anyway, and in review, we'll say that the planning begins during high school at the latest. I know most districts are really pushing for that age of 14. And some are even going as young as 13. When they hit junior high, they become part of the ARD committee. They're taking surveys on what they want to do for a living or what they want to do after high school. And as a parent, you're like, wait a minute, let's finish this grade first before we're considering what's going to happen in 5-6 years. But trust me, it's important to go ahead and start thinking of these things or having the discussion with your student, because you don't want to be approaching graduation and thinking, now what? Or have you thought about what you're doing after next weekend? Because school's over or school's come to a close, and now it's time to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. The planning may even start, some schools, like I said, start even earlier than 14, but it's by IDEA standards, it's required for at least 16. But TEA, I believe it's TEA states it's got to be started at 14. And again, some schools are starting at the age of 13. And let's see here. So any kind of transition to adulthood always must be developed within the IEP team. So your entire ARD process is going to be taking into consideration from the time that transition starts to the graduation time. These goals are not just educational goals. These are actual goals to get to being an adult. And what does that look like? What do we need to do with Johnny to help him understand how to, prepare a meal or fix something, cleaning dishes or doing, picking up after themselves. I know a lot of times I get criticized because I make my daughter pick up after herself, but I feel like if I don't start now, then when is it appropriate? Is it appropriate when she's alone in the world and she has to figure out she's got to clean up after herself? Or how about we go ahead and start installing those theories and those principles now instead of, oh, well, you're 18, so you should be able to clean up after yourself. I mean, I think there's a lot of parents that will tell you that doesn't work. But you're also going to want to consider things like, what are their likes? What are their strengths? One thing I always tell parents when they're considering IEP goals for their kids, don't just look at what they can't do. Try to emphasize what they can do so that what they can do can be built on that. Okay, well, my daughter may not physically be able to do some particular task, but she's really great at staying on task, or she's really great at doing things at her desk, or, getting things in order. She's, task oriented. Just kind of really look at what your child can do and see if you can't add to those things or build on those things to make sure that their IEP goals are in line with their strengths, not just what is considered a weakness or what they can't do. I mean, you want to consider, you want to make sure that you help improve the skills that they can't do, but a lot of times parents kind of miss the opportunity to just build on something that they're already good at. I mean, my daughter loves art. I mean, her thing is about art. She more than likely, hopefully will be able to support herself as a starving artist. I know that sounds terrible, but that's what she loves. But she's also very, very good about putting things back together. And she's very good about making sure things are in order. I almost think that's a little OCD of her, but it's something she's good at. So I want to make sure that we always emphasize in any ARD meeting, no matter what age a child is, always go to that ARD meeting with a list of things you feel like are strengths for your kid. Maybe they're good at making friends. Maybe they're good at being social. Maybe they're really good at helping the teacher. Whatever it is. I mean, I've had districts or administration put in a child's IEP that there is some way for the child to help the teacher because he really likes being a helper. And it changes that child's attitude because he's getting the opportunity to be a teacher's helper. And I know that sounds elementary, but it was really something that changed the child's behavior by knowing he could be the teacher's helper in some way every day. You're also going to want to coordinate services and activities that are oriented towards producing results. So there's always summer camps and different camps that provide things like life skills, especially when they hit the age of 15 and 16, that, it wouldn't hurt to let your child go and experience time with other kids to learn how to, I think one camp did a cooking camp this past summer, and the kids were taught how to make easy meals for themselves or doing food prep. Well, for some of those kids that like the food prep, I think one was talking about, now they're considering doing cooking, like being a chef, or even just doing the actual food prep. And lo and behold, Texas Workforce Commission is actually helping people with or individuals with disabilities get their food prep license in a supported environment. And it's a post-secondary thing that's offered out there. So, you may not know that your kid actually enjoys cooking until they get the opportunity to try cooking. So, I mean, just be open-minded, give them, try to find those activities that help booster either what they're already good at or help them to discover things that they may not have known that they were good at. You never know. But in the interim, I mean, they're getting to get out and have fun. I mean, that's kind of the point of doing activities that get to the end goal, is to let them have fun in the learning process. And we've already covered independent living connections. I'm trying to figure out if so we all kind of know IDEA plays a big role in your child's education now. That tends to go away when adulthood comes into effect, but it is very involved in regards to what the school district has to provide in order to getting your child to adulthood. So just because you think IDEA goes away at 18, it really doesn't, because the schools, if they offer any kind of transitioning plans or transition centers, they're going to still be following IDEA guidelines. So don't think that goes away completely. It's just, it's not as a big of a support if they're going straight from high school to college or any kind of junior college, things like that. IDEA doesn't have any say over what a junior college can and can't do. But I will tell you this, the culture is changing, and more junior colleges and other even state colleges are offering more opportunities for people with disabilities to attend college. So don't think that college is out because your child has a disability. Just think, I know how much it's changed in the last 5 years. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in the next 5. I mean, the culture of inclusion is rapidly changing almost daily. And I'm certainly appreciate it the most, just because I'm like any other parent. I want my child to be included. So all of this information, of course, is brought to you because we're the Parent and Training Information Centers, and we have a lot of other resources on our website. If anybody needs additional information, if y'all have questions, I certainly would like to open it up for questions now.
I do have a question, but mine is more towards the legal part, like guardianship, power of attorney.
Okay.
I feel like it's scary, you know.
Oh yeah.
I read into it and it's scary, like, oh my gosh, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if you have any information or anything like that.
Oh yeah, no, I have fact sheets regarding guardianship, and it's specific to Texas. So it's going to give you information. I can actually share with Heather when we have our next, because I think on August 1st was our last actual webinar about guardianship. Mm-hmm. And it was more of into the real nitty gritty of the legal aspect of it. But the fact sheet gives you information, kind of like a checklist of what you want to consider. And so I would love to share that information with you.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it's a 2-pager, but it's really easy to kind of understand. And it basically gives you your starting point, like what to consider. It'll also discuss things like special needs trust, ABLE accounts. There's a lot of financial things that you can set up for your child's future to hopefully, like, we set up a special needs trust for our daughter because she got left an inheritance. Well, if you qualify for any kind of federal assistance for your child's disability, they can't have more than $2,000 in assets. They can't have this, they can't have that. Yeah. And you can't even save for their future. Because I think at one point, before she got on MDCP, I think my husband's 401k came into question. They're like, well, you have plenty of money in your 401k, so you don't need this, and this. And I'm like, but that's not gonna help her for the rest of her life. And on top of that, that's supposed to be our retirement, not her living. our retirement.
Mhm.
So, I also found ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts are really great ways to save up. And we have detailed courses about ABLE accounts. But
Able.
yeah, ABLE, if you just Google ABLE accounts, anybody with a disability can qualify for an ABLE account. And a lot of companies will let you contribute pre-tax dollars to that ABLE account. And then you can use the card that the ABLE account comes with to pay for like OTC medications, prescriptions, things like that. So it's I don't want to say it's free money because it's money you earned. You have to actually put money in the account, but you can use it for things without having to pay the taxes on it. So in an ABLE account can be something that's left to them after, say, something happens, you die in a car accident. Well, the ABLE account is left in their name or whoever has conservatorship, because there's other things like we took into consideration that we obviously aren't going to outlive her. So we set up a conservatorship through her special needs trust so that our oldest nephew is her conservator if something were to happen to my husband and I. And there is more to it, to the actual transitioning to adulthood than what we've covered. This is just things to consider education wise and, work related. We do have Partners Resource Network host different things for guardianship, or even what to do when they transition from college to adulthood. We have a course like that as well. So sometimes, they do really great at college, but then they come back home and they finish college and you're kind of like, now what? So we have that education component as well. And we can work with Heather about doing that piece in another month if that's something that y'all are interested in. I can certainly, like I said, in September, I haven't shared it with Heather, but we are collaborating with an actual financial company that received a grant, and they want to be able to teach youth on how to utilize credit cards, why you should care about your credit, what does your financial health look like, things like that. And I'm pretty sure the second night event, the lawyer is actually going to be on the call or on the webinar. And so that lawyer actually knows about special needs trust and guardianship, and if it's legal, he knows about it. So I know for a lot of parents and a lot of youth, there's information that is definitely complex, but with the right help, you can certainly navigate it.
Yes. Oof. Because we kind of did like talk to lawyer about guardianship, but I'm just wondering if like other parents with older adult, that gone through, I'm just kind of wanting their opinion, their advice, I'm just curious, like.
Hey Vanna,
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen us promote it, but we do a session like this. We started it this year. It's quarterly, and it's for it's been mostly moms, but dads are welcome, of this age group. And it's really like an informal get on and chat about these kind of issues or topics. And so the next one is September 1st, I believe. But it's parents just getting on here, talking. Sometimes we talk about ABLE accounts, sometimes we're talking about guardianships, and it's an opportunity for you to meet other parents at the same life stage. And some of them talk about, this is what we did guardianship, or we did more of a person-centered plan, and
What is it that you just said, guardianship, and what's the other one
the person-centered planning.
Person what? I'm sorry.
Person-centered planning.
Oh, person-centered planning. Okay.
Yeah, so we've had moms on here who've gone different routes and kind of shared how they did it. And it's kind of just, everyone's got their different set of facts of, what's appropriate for them. But just so you have all other options. So like, we're not we have to go get guardianship, but that Zoom has it's there's not like a certain like topic. It's just like, what's going on with you guys? And someone's like, I'm dealing with this. What are we Social Security?
Yeah, because like
What's
when they
happening?
turn when they turn 18, they're no longer your child. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean,
And
they're still your child, but legally, like they adult now. You don't,
They can
So,
kick you
but
out
then
of the
at the
art
same time, you
process.
still want to protect them. You
Right.
know.
it's
Mhm.
it's a good Zoom to come to. I can send you that. So it's September 1st is the next one. Sally Landrum, who's on our board of directors, and she's more of our adult programming head
Mhm.
on the board, kind of directs that that conversation. Last time we talked a lot about the college options, but guardianships and able accounts come up every time. And so if someone has something new to share with each other, like, hey, I heard if you do this,
I know.
I didn't know
Right.
last time that you could do able through Fidelity. I had no idea that you could do that, and I learned that last time. So I was like, oh. I wanted to share that.
Well,
That's a good way to find
Oh.
out.
It
who's
took me
on.
almost a year to figure out that you could do pre-tax dollars to able. When I
Able-
said her,
confusing.
yeah, well, and that's the thing. When you go to their website, you're like, I mean, because the first couple of times I went to able, I'm like, no, I don't think this is what she needs. But then it was like, I heard another mom talking about, oh, well, I paid for such and such with his able card. And I'm like, you can do that? And then I found out you can do pre-tax dollars. And I'm like, well, that's almost like free money, but
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
that's what my kids think.
yeah. I
For
mean,
those
but-
That's hard.
for those kind of informal parent chats, do you put those out on that same email list that this was on, or can we
Yeah,
get notified when those happen?
Yeah, if you actually go to the same site that you registered, it's all under S.P.E.A.K. We just label it as a S.P.E.A.K.
Okay.
And the next one is I think it's September 1st. And we do those like at 4:30. So those are really good. It was just kind of one of those things we did one day, and people are like, I really like this. Can y'all do this again? So we just kind of do them quarterly. So, but yeah, moms and dads, it's lots of information from people who kind of just
done that.
They've been through.
been there, done that. Yeah. So
I can tell you that my biggest resource was somebody that had a child that was about 6 years older than my child. But it was like, oh, she was like, yeah, we experienced that, or, oh, this is what you do, or, that's no big deal. Or, like my daughter had SSI for a while and then she lost it. And I kind of freaked out because our insurance didn't really cover anything that has to do with cerebral palsy. And I mean, even her well child exam. And then next thing I know, she goes, well, why don't you just get on MBEC and do the buy-in program? I'm like, what?
yeah.
So when do you qualify for SSI? At 18?
Kids can start 18. Yeah.
Oh, 18. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean,
It's the month after, right?
Yeah, it's the month after they turn 18, they can get on SSI, or they can apply for SSI. I think you can actually go ahead and fill out all the stuff prior to them turning 18, but they wouldn't actually get it till the month after they turn 18. But some kids, like my daughter, she had a phenomenal social worker when she was in the NICU. And this woman made me sign up for every waiver, every special waiver list. And I don't know if y'all know about special waivers, but those things have year to decade long waits. And
Yes.
yeah.
16 years. No, 15 years. We waited 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter didn't get, so when she lost SSI, because they're like, well, she'll qualify for SSI while she's here in the NICU. And I was like, okay. And then she qualified afterwards. And then when she lost it, I was like, well, but I need that as a secondary. What do I do now? And so this mom, she's like, oh, well, just apply for MBEC, the Medicaid buy-in program. I'm like, well, why didn't anybody, because I even told the Social Security Administration, I'm like, I don't care about that little check that comes. I just need the Medicaid because my insurance will not cover stuff. And it was another mom that said, oh, just apply for MBEC. And sure enough, she got MBEC, and I think I paid $25 a month for her to be on MBEC for like several years. And then finally, I think it was right after she turned 9, we found out her number was up for MDCP, and she's been on MDCP. Her renewal thing's around March. So it took from her birthday in September to March of the following year to get all the MDCP stuff finalized and approved, and the approval, all of that. And I'm like, oh my, just really? And it's like some state secret. I mean, all the waiver list things, like anytime I send somebody an informal sheet about the different waiver list, they're like, why do you have all this all together? And I've Googled and I've never found this stuff. And it's like, just trust me, we've compiled it and we just share it. And half the time we don't know about something until somebody, like the money follows the person. I had to learn that from another mom that had a child that had to do the nursing home stay. I mean, had no idea.
Yeah, I always tell
Wow.
parents, like when we get the new parents that just had a baby, and we connect them with other parents, I'm like, that is your like best resource, because I'll tell you, I've been playing this game for almost 13 years. I'm like, nobody will come knock on your door.
No.
Hi, would you like
No.
this? And we were kind of fortunate because her dad had a cousin that worked for the Social Security office. So I kind of got some, that's how we found out about buy-in. And then I found out about the HIP program where they pay your
yes.
insurance.
Yes.
Saving for the 5 minutes that we were qualified.
That was the one thing I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me about HIP way before? Because I think she had Medicaid for years before I started getting that health insurance premium program thing.
Yeah, that was
It's like-
cool.
I'm like, I was like, I mean, because she still gets
Oh my
it even
gosh.
being on MDCP.
All this time I pay everything out of pocket.
They will pay your insurance premium if you've got the Medicaid and the private, both, if you get both.
But it has to be employment. I found out the hard way. It can't be like Obamacare or the whatever it's called nowadays, the health
Government
insurance.
exchange or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's Biden Care now, whatever it's called now. It's the American Cares Act, or the AMA. I think it's whatever it's called. It's been
the
referred
healthcare
to.
exchange.
Yeah, the healthcare exchange. It can't be because there was a time period, about 6 months, that we had to go on that. And yeah, HIP won't work if you have it through that. But if you have private insurance or primary insurance on your child, and you also qualified for Medicaid, however it be, if it MBEC, MDCP class, whatever, you can get reimbursed for your entire premium. I'm not just the premium for the kid, but we get our entire premium returned. So, I mean, it's an extra 500.
The state is like, you're saving us money because we're billing to the private before the Medicaid, so we'll just reimburse. And we had to just send in the paychecks, I guess monthly, to show that it was coming out of his paycheck.
We still have to do that,
Yeah. So
that's not. I'll take that if I get my premium. If I get the health insurance,
and
and then you've got to submit once a year when the insurance renews. You got to send like what the insurance covers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the statement of benefits to them. And nobody knows about that. Every time I tell someone, they're like, what? So
yeah, I was just like, why didn't anybody share that sooner?
Top secret. We put it on our resource list when we send out to new parents. It goes in the basket, so hopefully people are using that. So did anyone else have any other questions?
I have a transition question.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, we've fought really hard to have her included, and she's a junior now, and she's on track to graduate with a regular high school diploma, which means, will no longer be under IDEA. But I want her to go to the community college. We don't have any of those Think College programs nearby, so there's not like wonderful, supportive collegiate programs here. I know of somebody that used the school district to provide support for their kid going to the community college. And I'm just wondering if I'm missing something where maybe I can like forego her technically graduating and try to get those services until she ages out, or is there some kind of loophole like that?
I would talk to the diagnostician at the school. Casey, stop. Just simply because they can give you your pros and cons versus graduating versus the actual certificate of completion. It's slightly different in every district, but I would almost say it is better to get that certificate of completion than to, because if you do the certificate of completion, you can't go to a state school right away. You have to go to like a junior college versus I think if they get the actual high school diploma, they could go straight to an actual state college, but it's not going to have any supported services. So it is a tough thing to kind of consider. I mean, how much support do you think your child would need at college?
A fair amount. I don't want to let go of the high school diploma. I want to keep that. I was just wondering if there's a way to like forego accepting it until she ages. You know what I mean? Like, and then just accept it when she turns 21 and try to get services for like dual credit classes or something.
Christy might be able to answer that one. She actually used to work for the school districts.
Oh, Amanda, my name is Christy. I also work with Partners Resource Network with Pamela. I was doing a session for the youth while she was doing this one. What area or where are you?
I'm in Plano.
Okay, so what we want to do is I want to connect you to our colleague over there in the Dallas area. His name is Jim Wright. Because he can give you specific information and can help walk you through the process with the school district. I think, you know, if she's on track to graduate, I don't know if the school district will be able to say that she needs to stay to receive the services. Because, and I'm just speaking from what I've learned so far. I'm by no means a transition expert. But if she's, you know, gone through the classes, passed the tests, you know, they may say that the staying in their after, you know, what do they call it? Just different districts call it different things, would not be beneficial to her. Whereas if you wanted her to go to the junior college, she could go to the Office of Disability Services, you know, and self-report that she has X, Y, and Z, you know, disabilities, and these are the things that she needs support in, and then work with the junior college that way. But the best thing for us to do would be to get you connected to Jim.
I can tell you DCCD also has supported services. That's the junior college that would be probably closest to you. And they do have supported services for those with disabilities. So
yeah, every college has to have disability support services. I was talking about those wraparound transition programs that are like think college programs, like that kind of level of support. The one that's like at Austin Community College, Houston, well, it used to be at Houston, they shut down. Texas A&M, San Antonio Community College.
Has she applied for any particular state school, or does she have aspirations to go to any particular state school that you
I
want to?
don't think she will be able to go at that level. She's fully included, but with a ton of support, like modified curriculum, you know, para support, her parent support. We're both educators, so we are on it.
The best
just
thing
trying to figure out how to get her more supports in college. Like I've talked to people across the country where in different states they'll have like one person had whoever it was from their state disability services that came in, and you know they considered it like employment preparation. And so, the person had someone that went with them to their classes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the best thing for us to do would be to get you connected to Jim. Jim has been doing this for many years and is familiar with a lot of the services in that, Dallas, Plano, Frisco, Mesquite area over there. So if, I don't know how you want to do this, give Pamela your contact information or give it to Heather and Heather can send it to us, then we can get you in contact with Jim and let him know kind of what you're looking for, because I'm sure he's got suggestions and places for you to start, because that's his area over there. He knows a lot of people.
All right, that's good. That's not the attorney, right? That's a different person.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No, the attorney I was referring to is with a financial company that's trying to do financial education for youth and young adults with disabilities.
Okay, and then I had a second question about transition, and maybe, I don't know, this probably needs to be with an attorney, but is there such thing as partial guardianship, or, where like maybe we have rights to help her with finances and, I don't know, one or two other things on that list of rights, but then she retains the right to like have a driver's license and get married and all the other rights?
Talking about, well, it's some school districts refer to it as guided decision making, and there's also what would be considered conservatorship. Conservatorship is somebody that basically helps them be in the world on their own, but you don't like if say she was in the hospital and had a ruptured appendix and was refusing to have the surgery, you could override her decision about not having her appendix taken out with either guardianship or conservatorship, but she would still retain the rights to do things. I mean, because even guardianship, they can still have a license, but conservatorship,
Driver's license?
I'm pretty sure, because I know
It was on the list of rights that are removed. There was 15 rights that are removed, and that was on it.
I haven't seen driver's license specifically, because I know my friend Malia, her son just got his driver's license. It took him like 6 tries to get it, and he's not severely autistic, just it's a struggle for him. But I think she has conservatorship.
Yeah, guardianship will take away that right. That's why I'm trying to figure out an alternative.
It honestly, I couldn't really tell you definitively. I just know what our lawyer recommended. There are many attorneys that do, you're going to want to look for like a family law attorney, and they're going to be able, and flat out ask them if they know about disability rights, if they know about guardianship versus conservatorship, or if they specialize in special needs trusts. That'll give you an indication if they're in the right field of practice to answer those questions.
Yeah, we have 2 attorneys here. I was just trying to figure out if there's even that option before I spend $1,000, $3,000.
Yeah. Well, you can have a consultation without having to actually put down a retainer. I mean,
yeah.
But I can tell you that ever so often, there's one particular attorney that's out of Dallas that actually does a webinar. And what I can do is when I locate that information, that particular attorney, I can send it to Heather and let her send it on to you. They do actual free informational kind of question and answer sessions in regards to that. Our attorney's here over in Tarrant County, and she was phenomenal. I mean, there wasn't a question that I couldn't ask her and get answered. But you're right. I mean, it was a $3,000. It was a $3,000 expense just to do the framework of the legal documentation. So
Amanda, you might check with S.P.E.A.K. S.P.E.A.K.
Oh, yeah,
is in Region 10, which is in the Dallas area. They might be able to point you in the right direction for an attorney. And the other group that you might check with also is Disability Rights Texas. That
Yeah.
is, I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar with Disability Rights Texas. I was just trying to see if any parent already knew the answer to the question.
And I know that Jim also, he's got 2 sons, one of which I think is getting to the point of they're starting to talk about the guardianship issue. He also might be able to provide you some insight into that too.
Okay.
I have
I
a
was
quick
trying to
question
find-
about supported employment.
Oh, yes, go for it.
Would you say like Texas Workforce Commission is the best resource to get like information on, what companies or, places might be, offering that sort of thing?
Yes, Texas Workforce Commission actually has an actual department that's their main goal is providing information of employers and having that they actually reach out and get the employers that are offering supported employment. But they work very closely with both the employer and the employee in getting the right services connected. And they even have, matter of fact, they have a luncheon tomorrow about some of their services. And if you Google Texas Workforce Commission, there's information on their site about that luncheon. But that's probably more not really the informational level that you're looking for. You're probably really wanting to go ahead and get your daughter or get her enrolled in a program where she can start learning something that a supported employment could offer her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Start preparing to get on the right track so that those things would maybe be available.
Right.
That should be on the right track for that.
Right.
So Donald, your daughter was on the Zoom tonight too, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Skylar's my daughter.
Yes. So this is Christy. I was the one that was with your daughter tonight. And
Okay.
the school that your daughter attends is in my area. So
Okay.
if that's something that you need to, reach out to me, I'll be glad to help you with. I can
Sure.
get you in touch with the people that we need to get in touch with in terms of school district people, but also other people that you might need. And Heather has my contact information. Yeah, I'm familiar with the school your daughter goes to.
Okay, great. Awesome.
And I'm also putting in the chat our connection too, if anybody wants to look at that or reach out to either one of us. We kind of divide Region 11 north and south. Christy's got everything south of, did you say 30? Yeah, everything south of 30, and I've got everything north of 30. So we're always an email or a phone call away. And, that's part of what Partners Resource Network does. We do a lot of one-on-one work in addition to webinars. So, we're just here to help parents be able to navigate this crazy, unique thing called special needs. It can get bumpy. It can be a bumpy ride.
All right, were there any other questions? All right, well, we will go ahead and end the Zoom. Thank you both, Pamela and Christy, for logging on here, and thank you guys for jumping on here this evening.
Thank you.
We'll have another
Yes, thank you
session
for all the information.
next Wednesday, and then in the final one on September 8th. So you go to the S.P.E.A.K page on our site, you can see what's coming up, and that one I was talking about with the other parents too. So
So Heather, you said September 1st?
yes, that's the one
Okay.
with the parent one. So sign up for that one, and then I'll send y'all a Zoom link that morning for that too. So
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
all right, guys, y'all have
Thanks
a
a
good
lot,
night.
everybody.
And Donald,
you.
I put my phone number in the chat for
I
you
saw that, yeah.
also.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Heather.
You're welcome.
Heather.